update, but it's more into Thursday night, where we've got a watch point for some particularly strong winds that will start moving across northern areas of the UK. These could provide 70-mile-an-hour gusts at times, so do just keep up to date with the forecast as we head towards then. Bye-bye.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
And YouView, Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's the king of breakfast TV, and he's back.
Eamon Holmes, back on the TV with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. You have holy water by your bed?
Oh, yes. Already to bless.
Yeah. Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, A spate of migrant-related incidents, including the murder of an aspiring Marine and the alleged rape of a schoolgirl, have sparked genuine anger and protest nationwide. So why are the justified grievances of ordinary folk being derided as racist and far-right? Nigel Farage tackles the left's cynical attempts to silence debate on Britain's immigration invasion at 9:35. Also coming up, congratulations, scheming Sturgeon. Your incompetence has destroyed the Scottish separatism fantasy.
Crisis is about to explode.
My comments about her, the person being a rapist, threat to women, they are not.
It might be Valentine's Day, but Scotland's love affair with Queen Nick is over. 4 in 10 want her resignation, while a whopping 56% now want to remain in the UK. So in my digest next, I'll explain why those bombshell poll results show the fumbling First Minister's trans extremism may have finished her political career. And then my superstar panel weigh-in tonight. Live in the studio, Amanda Platel, Charlie Lawson and Rebecca Reid. Harry and Meghan's worldwide privacy tour continues to be mercilessly mocked in the US media.
They're everywhere! In my face! Look, Kyle, we just kind of don't care about some dumb prince and his stupid wife.
Ouch. But as it's revealed, the shameless Sussexes are working with wealthy Hollywood business fixers. Do you believe they are motivated by money or humanitarian causes? Well, esteemed biographer Tom Bauer weighs in on their latest dollar-spinning scheme at 10:40. Plus, David Emmanuel, Charlotte Griffiths of the Mail on Sunday and Amy Ansell duke it out on the Montecito Mona's charity charade. That's in the Clash at 9:20, where you can have your say too. I'll reveal how shortly. As a brave spokesperson for the vaccine injured tries to spark MSM interest in their plight.
You look in the eyes of all of these people and ask yourself, what would you do if this was one of your family members?
The man behind that moving video, John Watt, who says he was left in a wheelchair by the jab, joins me live to make a plea for compassion and support. Plus, it's a woke new world as Disney beams BLM propaganda directly onto your children's TV screens.
You're doing it right now. Doing what? Being defensive about race. Robert DiAngelo wrote a whole book about it.
More on that shocking showcase of reverse racism in the media buzz at 10:30. We'll have a first look at tomorrow's front pages, hot off the press too, and a brand new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass will be named. This is Dan Wootton tonight. Let's go. My digest on what could be the end for scheming Sturgeon and her toxic brand of Scottish separatism coming up. But first, the news headlines with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you and good evening. Our top story on GB News tonight. 2 people have been arrested on suspicion of sending malicious messages concerning the missing mother of 2, Nicola Bulley. Lancashire Police received reports of messages being sent to Wire Council members, leading to the arrest of a 49-year-old man and a 20-year-old woman. The man has been bailed pending further inquiries while the woman remains in custody. Nicola Bulley disappeared while walking her dog in St Michael's on Wire almost 3 weeks ago. She hasn't been seen since. Now, 2 serving police officers will face misconduct cases over the way they handled reports of indecent exposure by Sarah Everard's killer. Former Met police officer Wayne Cousins is behind bars, serving a whole life term for murdering Sarah Everard, and has admitted 3 counts of indecent exposure, one of which he committed just 4 days before her death. The Independent Office for Police Conduct says the new cases involve a Met Police constable and a Kent Police sergeant. The government's to launch an inquiry into the sinking of a migrant boat in the English Channel last year, in which 4 people lost their lives. 39 others were saved following a major rescue operation off the Kent coast in the early hours of the 14th of December. The Marine Accident Branch says the investigation will focus on the emergency response of the UK team. And we just heard this afternoon that a British person has died in Ukraine. The government here says the family's been informed and is in contact with local authorities on the ground. And that coincides with Downing Street announcing today a national 1-minute silence to be held in the UK to mark the first anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia on the 24th of February last year. Meanwhile, NATO's been discussing further support for Ukraine, including the possibility of sending fighter jets to Kyiv after yesterday's warning it's seen a fresh Russian offensive in the country. Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg says the alliance will do all it can to help Ukraine.
We need to ensure that Ukraine gets the weapons it needs to be able to retake territory, liberate the lands and win this war and prevail as a sovereign independent nation.
And reports of a miracle in Turkey. A 77-year-old man has been rescued from the rubble 212 hours after the earthquakes hit the region. But more than 41,000 people are now known to have died in the quakes which struck the south of the country and northern Syria on Monday last week. UK charities and organisations are to send emergency supplies worth more than £350,000 to Turkey 8 days since the disaster. And Syria's president today told the UN he's going to open 2 more border crossings so emergency aid can reach opposition-controlled areas. And here the King has been meeting volunteers from the UK's Turkish community. They've been sending aid to their home country and across to Syria in the wake of last week's earthquakes. King Charles visited a West London charity to see the efforts of residents working to help those left homeless following the disaster. He told them how deeply sorry he was. And he visited a pop-up in Trafalgar Square today named Syria's House, a place for Syrians to come to and pay their respects to lost relatives. That's it from me. I'm back in an hour. Back to Dan.
Something extraordinary, truly extraordinary, is happening in Scottish politics right now. Not that you'd know about it if you rely on the MSM. Scheming Sturgeon, once the most potent threat to the United Kingdom as we know it, has become so politically toxic that her continued presence as Scotland's First Minister threatens to put the Scottish separatism cause back by a generation. Honest Scots, hard-working Scots, ordinary Scots have finally had enough of Queen Nick, waging a faux culture war and making illegal promises of a second referendum while driving their healthcare system and living standards into the ground and hiking taxes. Bombshell new Lord Ashcroft research, a so-called super poll, shows this is now a political emergency for the SNP. Just 44% would now vote yes for separation from the UK, below the result of the 2014 referendum, which was 45%. And 56% would vote against separation. 42% of Scots believe Sturgeon should resign now. Only 1 in 5 Scots agree with her bizarre call for the next general election to be a de facto referendum on separation. And even amongst SNP supporters, just 44% agree with those delusional plans. Yep, Sturgeon's desire to embrace woke politics by insisting the despicable male rapist Adam Graham, who became a trans woman to try and go to an all-female jail, is in fact a she, has woken voters up to her dangerously hard-left rhetoric. It's been left to her predecessor, one-time mentor turned arch-nemesis Alex Salmond, to point out the damage she's caused to Scottish separatism.
Continued to conduct the argument about Scottish self-determination, Scottish independence, having this issue as the touch point and the conflict between Westminster, then it would be untenable. You must get off this issue trying to defend self-identification. She's been reduced to stumbling incoherence. When you get to the stage that people are starting to laugh at you, then that is the stage at which you should realise you're trying to defend the indefensible.
I mean, it's not often that I agree with Alex Salmond, but looking at the last few weeks, it's hard to see how their unfortunate cause survives with Sturgeon a laughingstock. Watch this.
24 events occur in real time. A crisis is about to explode.
My comments about her, the person being a rapist, threat to women, they are not.
At the last count, the First Minister had refused 12 times to say if Isla Bryson is a man or a woman.
Do you regard Isla Bryson as a woman?
Herself as a woman.
I think you just referred to Isla Bryson using the word her.
I can't remember. I'll take your word for it. Well, fine.
Freudian slip.
My question is, are all trans women women? You haven't answered that question.
Well, that's not the point that we're dealing with here.
The question I'm asking.
Trans women are...
Have you listened enough to women who don't agree with you on the reform of the gender?
I've listened a lot.
Support for the SNP is at its lowest for 5 years.
We are running out of time.
Scotland will be far better off without scheming Sturgeon's separatism obsession. It's time for her to do a Jacinda Ardern, listen to the polls, then shuffle off the stage. To respond now, my superstar panel. Top Daily Mail columnist Amanda Patel, soap legend and social commentator Charlie Lawson, and the author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Amanda Patel, Scottish separatism, and I think this is a very good thing, seems dead with Sturgeon leading the SNP.
Nicola Sturgeon's made a calculated mistake. She brought in voting for 16-year-olds thinking that she would shore up her position by getting young people in to vote for her, going after the woke agenda. I think the last thing I saw, there's something like 700 trans people in the whole of Scotland. There'll obviously be more than that, but that's... she's registered. She's pinned everything on getting this woke vote, and it doesn't work because, as anyone who's worked in politics, as I have, knows, young people don't vote. They'll go down the pub. It's older people who vote, and they've been totally alienated by her policy. But I have to say, Dan, I just look at that, I think you're being a little bit unkind to her because, I mean, just take a look at her. Is it any wonder she doesn't know what a woman is?
Oh, no, Amanda, you've gone there again. He's gone there again.
Don't you point at me like that.
Do you know how angry the Scottish separatists were last week
well, I do
when you
not
described
know.
Sturgeon, as you often do, as...
an overstuffed little haggis.
Oh, Charlie.
And I bet you she's not having a nice Valentine's dinner tonight with her bloke. Have we ever even seen her husband?
I mean, to be fair, Amanda, neither are we, so we really can't talk.
You're having a very lovely Valentine's Day, thank you very much. You've got Charlie and I next to you, you lucky woman.
Haven't we got dates later on, Rebecca? Let's pretend.
There might be some WhatsApps.
Charlie, back to the point. I think it's a very good thing, actually, for the people of Scotland, for Sturgeon to be exposed in this way, because she's been leading them down the path when it comes to Scottish separatism for years. And I feel like the Scots have woken up to what she's playing at now.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying before, Dan, the nationalism, republicanism or whatever is very much akin to where I come from, Northern Ireland, and indeed the Republic of Ireland. It kind of separates into two halves, and it's as simple as that. And I bothered my rear end to phone a couple of Celtic fans that I know up in Scotland, and sure enough, they are Scot Nats. That's right. I knew that. If I phoned two Rangers fans, they'd be the opposite. But these polls, I don't think are that accurate. I think if you get someone in the quiet of a pub where their pals aren't there, or their pals are in the loo, you will find that most Scottish people want to remain part of the United Kingdom. They may say they're Scottish nationalists, but I'm telling you, you meet them in the boozer and have a chat with them. It's like very much like Michelle O'Neill does not want a referendum on a united Ireland because she knows she'll lose because there are an awful lot of Catholic voters, if you like, who are actually unionists.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as simple
this is
as
what
that.
Sturgeon has been doing for such a long time. Stringing her supporters along without actually wanting a referendum, because, as you say, she knows she will lose. And I think possibly...
As Amanda says as well, this trans thing, I mean, I was watching her just hanging herself. I mean, it was just embarrassing. The poor wee thing was in the SHI1T.
Right. Yeah, she's laughing stock. I mean, I thought the most damning part of this poll for Sturgeon, Rebecca, is that even amongst SNP supporters, the majority say, no, you can't make the next general election a referendum on separatism, because actually there's so much that's going wrong in Scotland. It's treating the voters as fools.
Yeah, and I think also the idea is that referenda should be about the actual individual issue. And actually, I only learnt from watching Derry Girls that when there was the referendum in Ireland, it wasn't... I was watching it and I was like, it's so weird. There's no, like, right or wrong, left or right. Like, people had individual feelings about it that weren't along a specific party line. And I think in Scotland it's much the same. It's not like Brexit where it was like, hot young people want to stay, not hot young people want to leave. I didn't vote.
She's
I
already
don't care.
started. And it's supposed to be the night of love.
It would be nice to be able
Jesus,
to have
Rebecca.
a
I know a lot
referendum.
of hot young Brexiteers, OK?
Really?
Me too.
Hook me up.
And me, love.
my point is that it would be really nice to be able to have a referendum that's actually about the issue, not about the culture war thing that we seem to make all referenda about.
Indeed. Look, Amanda, you used to be, obviously, one of the Tories' top political strategists. Is this too far gone now for Sturgeon, or is there a way she can turn this back around?
She's finished.
No, really?
She's completely finished. I mean, it's like, you know...
I think she'll be gone after the conference.
It's like your Jacaranda Ardern in New Zealand. You know, there comes a point when she was clever because she realised it's over.
Yeah,
I've lost the vote. She was so woke. If you go for a woke vote, you lose. If only Sturgeon had learnt a little bit from the Jacaranda. That you basically, if you go for a tiny minority of people who don't vote and you don't go for your core vote, who are more traditional, more conservative, who do go out, then you have lost the argument. She is finished.
But it's a lot classier than
She
Boris
is
Johnson
finished.
or people like that who, like, literally they were having to grease his fingernails off the door to get him to leave.
Oh,
I think there's something very tasteful about saying, do you know what, I was about to say a word I can't say, I screwed up.
Boris
therefore...
Johnson was deposed in an anti-democrat
Yeah, and they
coup.
basically had to, like, steam
And
him
the
out.
public
They did not have to steam him
Boris
out.
gone.
And what, at the end of Partygate?
Absolutely.
We are remembering very different stories.
No, we
I
are
was here
remembering
saying I don't
different
care about
stories.
parties and everyone was losing their minds. People
Sturgeon
did
has
want
lost
out.
the argument, she's lost the plot, she's gone for the woke vote, she's failed, and she will have to get out before the next election. Otherwise, the Scots will go down the toilet because Labour is resurging now. They're coming through the middle of the Tories who are finished in Scotland and her defunct SNP.
And Alec is a big fish. I'm telling you what, when Alec starts standing up and speaking like that, you watch your back.
Is he not quite naughty? Did he not do something really bad a while ago? Am I misremembering
He
that?
was found
Completely innocent.
Okay.
He was cleared, and, you know, we still believe, don't we?
Stop
We
slinging
still believe
mud, Rebecca.
in
I
innocence
asked a question.
Unless found guilty. Amanda Patel, Charlie Lawson, Rebecca Reid, my superstar panel here with me all night. But what the Farage is still to come, and after a disturbing spate of migrant-related incidents, including the murder of an aspiring Marine and the alleged rape of a schoolgirl, are the real grievances of Brits being dismissed as far-right? Nigel Farage is going to weigh in on this just after 9:30. But up next, in the clash, with Harry and Meghan reportedly working with Hollywood's wealthiest business fixers, are they motivated by humanitarian causes or money? The Mail on Sunday's editor-at-large Charlotte Griffiths goes up against The Apprentice star Amy Ansell and Princess Diana's former fashion designer David Emmanuel. But of course, I want to know what you think on this. Email me, dan@gbnews.uk. Vote in our poll at GB News. The results and the clash straight after the break.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions are, those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Time now for The Clash. And not satisfied with making millions by playing the victim and trashing their family in toxic tell-alls, Harry and Meghan are reportedly on the hunt for even more money-making schemes. The increasingly isolated couple are reportedly meeting with 2 of Hollywood's top deal-makers, Adam Lilleen and Amanda Groves, who claim to help clients find profit opportunities to, quote, match their purpose, or in other words, help celebs paid a lot of money to look good. And there have been unconfirmed reports that Meghan has also been meeting with the recently widowed 89-year-old billionaire Gordon Getty. Harry reportedly has no regrets about his twisted autobiography Spare, but the couple's worldwide privacy tour, as the hit American cartoon South Park have mockingly dubbed it, has made them a global laughingstock. Watch this.
Seriously, it's driving me crazy. I'm sick of hearing about them, but I can't get away from them. They're everywhere, in my face. Look, Kyle, we just kind of don't care about some dumb prince and his stupid wife.
Of course, the Duke and Duchess of Duplicity claim they are only motivated by altruism. But what do you think? Do you believe Harry and Meghan are motivated by money or humanitarian causes? Email me, dan@gbnews.uk. Vote in our poll at GB News. The results shortly, but to help you make up your mind, I'm joined by Mail on Sunday editor-at-large and all-round royal expert Charlotte Griffiths, former Apprentice contestant and social commentator Amy Ansell, and the late Princess Diana's former dress designer David Emanuel. So, David, for you, humanitarian causes or money? What's
money, no question. Come on, let's not be naive here. For goodness sake, for a prince who left the family, went abroad to America, right, and wanted peace and quiet, has not stopped working. Not so. Of course, it's money. I mean, it's a lavish lifestyle, a huge house in Montecito, and you've got to pay for that. Now, if I remember correctly, Dan, wasn't it his first gig in America was to do a big speech for one of the big banks?
Oh, yeah. JP Morgan, wasn't it?
Mental health, of which conservatively they said he's been paid over $1 million. Now, he has not stopped working. Moving on from that, what do we have? He did a big contract with Netflix. Oprah Winfrey, and then if that wasn't enough, I mean, they must have made shedfuls of money from that. Then we have the book. And then what else is coming? You know, I mean, it's just... I mean, the reason for leaving the royal family is, as you know, members of the royal family can't do commercial work. perfect opportunity. They're not a working members of the royal family anymore, so they can do what the heck they like. So I'm not surprised they're signing up. Look, they've already sold their souls. It's hideous, it's bad taste, and it's very American.
Yes, that's for sure. Amy Ansell, you totally disagree with that, right? Why?
Well, listen, Dan, if they both did not have extensive track records in the humanitarian realm,
Meghan,
I wouldn't. Well, she has over the years committed to several charities, and Harry has grown up as a humanitarian. He's clearly inspired by his late mother, his father, his grandparents, and this is his world. He knows charity so well. And what's wrong with bringing attention via their fame and celebrity to these great charities and raising so much money? They've already raised millions through the Archwell Foundation.
They've raised a lot more money for themselves, haven't they? I mean, look, Charlotte Griffiths, you have obviously covered Harry and Meghan for a very long time, so you know what their motivation is. I guess what Amy's saying is fair enough about Harry in his past, but he's changed, hasn't he? He's sold out to Hollywood now. It's not about humanitarian causes now, is it?
I have to say, I think I agree. I mean, the thing he'll be most annoyed about is that South Park hasn't given him any royalties for mentioning his name on their episode. They are going to be sending a check from Montecito to the South Park boys wanting their dollar. And the thing is about Harry moving to Montecito and making friends with Ellen DeGeneres and all these people is that actually I think he's got caught up in that sort of rich celebrity lifestyle. And a funny thing about his $14 million mansion is it's not actually the biggest, poshest mansion on the block. In fact, it's one of the less good ones. And he's downsizing. So there might be a bit of keeping up with the Joneses going on. And in fact, Ellen is his neighbour. And that is it's through Ellen that he met, we think, this fixer, Adam Lilling.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? David
He's
Manuel.
networking the whole time.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
But what's wrong with that?
But okay,
He's being schooled by Meghan. Meghan's taught him how to do this.
But it's not working, though, isn't it? That's the key point, David, because you look at that South Park clip, and this is humiliating.
It's
I mean,
funny, but it's embarrassing.
it is, but this is a liberal comedy. South Park, I mean, they poke fun at everyone, I know that, but this is still a fundamentally left-wing liberal comedy, and they're totally taking the mickey out of Harry and Meghan. They're a laughing stock, they're a joke in America.
One thing, Harry Windsor thinks he's Harry Styles, right? Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
Harry Styles has a sense of humour, which Harry Windsor doesn't have anymore.
None at all. Exactly.
That's very true, actually, Amy.
But listen, can I just say that Archwell Inc. was set up with a non-profit leg and also for-profit. So clearly they have bills to pay, so they're going to do work that's commercial.
How much money from the book sale?
I know exactly how much.
From the book sale did he give?
So 1.6 million to 2 charities, 1.3 million to send to Bali, and 300,000 to Well Child. But it doesn't matter. It's still something. Do you think poor or impoverished people are saying, "Oh, you're only giving us X, only giving us 300,000"? They're grateful. So what's wrong with them doing both profitable and
worse? He's embarrassing the entire country. He's embarrassed his family. Now we've got this thing, you know.
He's not in the U.S. representing the royal family really anymore. That's from the past.
Don't come over. Don't come over for the coronation.
But Charlotte,
okay, you let him know that.
Indeed, and actually, that's a really pertinent point because Charlotte, obviously, your newspaper at the weekend broke the exclusive that the royal family are expecting both Harry and Meghan to be in attendance. But actually, this is a bad look for the royal family now, isn't it?
They're giving in.
Yeah.
Giving in.
I think it's a worse look not to invite them. I think Charles has no choice but to invite them because he can't be seen to be pushing his son out into the cold.
You know, I hope he's been advised.
They are dragging their drama over the pond with them.
Can I just say one thing very quickly, Dan? I hope that he gets searched before he arrives on this land, because he could be wired up for Netflix. Let's be honest, because whatever is said, he will take back and give it to Netflix and do more stories.
Well, that's actually a really interesting point.
There have been reports that the royal family only plan to talk to him about the weather because they don't dare talk to him about anything else.
I wonder why.
Yeah, and I think that's very sensible because, Charlotte, look, there's obviously no proof that Meghan and Harry have recorded private conversations in the past, but I have been informed by my royal sources that senior members of the royal family have been acutely conscious and acutely aware that any private conversation that they have with Harry and Meghan now will not necessarily stay private, including, by the way, electronic communications. And we saw that, didn't we, in the publication of the book and even the Netflix series too.
It should be strip
Yes,
searched.
of all people, Harry revealed a text message exchange between Meghan and Kate. And Major Johnny, do you remember Major Johnny, who looks after Prince Charles? He has been tasked in the past with sitting very close to them at royal events, just to make sure that they're not recording anything, they're not leaking anything. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Major Johnny around a lot at the coronation if they do go.
Fascinating, but I mean, what a tragic state of affairs.
But I think it will look worse, Dan, it'll look worse if they're not there. If people look back in history and they're not
Personally, I disagree. I have to say I'm with David on this one. I do understand your points, Charlotte and Amy, but my feeling on this is that if Harry and Meghan are here, they will overshadow the coronation.
It'll turn into the Harry and Meghan show.
And I understand that Prince William is very concerned that they're going to plan some sort of stunt, and I believe they will do that. But look, what a fascinating discussion. Thank you so much, The Mail on Sunday's editor-at-large, Charlotte Griffiths, the social commentator, Amy Ansell, and Princess Diana's close friend, the fashion designer, David Emanuel. But who do you agree with on this? As it's revealed, the Sussexes are working with Hollywood business fixers. Do you believe that they are motivated by, one, money, two, humanitarian causes? Well, Martel on Twitter says they will claim it's for humanitarian causes, but we all know that these two are motivated by dollar signs, not charity. From Anna, Harry has been around money all his life, so he won't worry about that. Let's hope it's humanitarian causes. And from Bella, they give some of the money they earn to charity, so I think it's a mix of both. And your verdict is now in. This certainly isn't a mix of both. 91% of you think Harry and Meghan are motivated by money. Just 9% of you think they're all about humanitarian causes. I think you're right, you know. Coming up, John Watt, who says he was left in a wheelchair by a COVID jab, has become a brave spokesman for the vaccine injured as he tries to get the MSM to hear their plight. So he's going to join me live at 9:50 to make a plea for compassion and support. But next, it's What the Farage, and after a disturbing spate of migrant-related incidents, including the murder of an aspiring Marine and the alleged rape of a schoolgirl, are the real grievances of Brits being dismissed as far-right? Well, we've got the man to weigh in on this, Nigel Farage, with lots of fascinating insight. He's live with me straight after the break.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8". My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's the king of breakfast TV, and he's back.
Eamon Holmes, back on the TV with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. Do you have holy water by your bed?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
already to bless.
Yeah. Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, after a spate of migrant-related incidents, including the alleged rape of a British schoolgirl by 4 Afghan boys, the growing anger amongst ordinary folk at Britain's dangerously open borders is understandable. Newquay residents in Cornwall are the latest to plan a protest outside a hotel that's housing asylum seekers at the taxpayers' expense. But in a worrying and increasing trend, the peaceful demonstration is being condemned as racist and bigoted by local politicians. Those unsubstantiated claims against ordinary folk with genuine concerns follows on from the MSM's attempt to blame the protests in Knowsley, which is, of course, a staunchly left-wing borough of Liverpool, on the far right, despite the fact the initially peaceful protests were said to be triggered by this video of a migrant trying to chat up an English schoolgirl. In fact, there's even unconfirmed speculation that Antifa or the far left may have been responsible for the despicable violence that took place in Knowsley, a theory not weakened by this anti-fascist call to arms posted online by the local branch of the Communist Party. So, Nigel Farage is with me now. This is what the Farage, I should have said that. But Nigel, you started to expose this on your show last night. And it was really fascinating because there's potentially much more than meets the eye to what went on in Knowsley. But now we see this happening before the protest has even taken place. In Newquay, it's almost like if you just brand something racist now, you can try and stop folk in their tracks. But it's not going to work, is it?
No, I had a local resident on the programme last night, a local parent.
I heard.
A parent of a teenage girl. He came on the programme by telephone. He was too scared, even though he was a tough Scouser, he was too scared to come on himself. And the reason, of course, is that he'd have the Daily Mirror, the BBC knocking on his door. They'd find a Facebook post he'd made 4 years ago. You know the drill. But as he said, this peaceful protest was mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, grandparents, deeply concerned that, and forget that one video, that over a period of several months, a lot of underage girls had been propositioned. Now, I've seen what's happened in Brussels. I've seen what's happened in Stockholm. If you allow a vast number of young males coming from cultures where women are not even second-class citizens, and let's be frank about that with much of the Middle East and elsewhere, then this behaviour to them is normal. The fact that some yobs turned up, dressed in black outfit, with backpacks, balaclavas and sledgehammers, they were not the residents, and yet that was used by media over the course of the weekend to denounce Knowsley as being full of right-wing bigots. I mean, stop me if I laugh. It's probably the most left-wing part of the whole of the United Kingdom. I mean, golly gosh. But overnight, Dan, there's been an even more interesting development. a group of 180 charities, but actually nearing 500 with all local contacts, come together in a refugee coalition to urge government and politicians to condemn any protests against refugees. That's how they framed this whole debate. And here's the irony. Here's the irony. People at the Refugee Council have been funded with tens of millions of pounds of public money. So your money paid in tax has been given to organisations who are now telling you, do not speak out on behalf of your young girls, do not speak out on behalf of your community, or we will label you as a racist bigot. And sure enough, in Cornwall, as you've covered a moment ago, when again there are genuine concerns in that town and in St Column Major, just down the road, already, even before the protests had begun, genuinely concerned citizens are being labelled as racist. Now, this is all an attempt to stifle debate of any kind. On the one hand, you've got people who genuinely believe there should be no national boundaries of any kind at all. The old classic sort of Marxist-Leninist types, Trotskyite types. On the other, you've got conservative politicians. I mean, Andrew Mitchell, Foreign Office Minister, we have a duty to these people. Do we really? Do we really have a duty to young Albanian men who throw their passports into the English Channel so we can't say who they are and check whether they have a criminal record? I don't think so. But they know that tens of thousands are coming. Tens of thousands more are coming over the next few months, and they want to stop any public debate. And I tell you what, they ain't going to stop me.
Well, no. And I don't think anyone should be stopped from having this conversation. And actually, Nigel, and we know because we're in touch with our viewers, this anger is only going to get worse, isn't it? This isn't going away. This is not a problem that the government and the MSM can just sort of sweep under the carpet. This is an issue.
I mean, my biggest fear, I don't want to depress your viewers and listeners too much this evening, but my biggest fear is what's happened in Sweden. I mean, you know, I knew Stockholm. I knew Malmo 30 years ago when I had a proper job, when I was in business. And I used to visit regularly. And these were, Stockholm was the most relaxed, gentle, easygoing city I'd ever been to in the world. And now there's a gun crime that takes place every single day. Now, of course, if you dare to move into this territory, you're accused of racism. But this isn't about race. It's about culture. It is about culture. I'm talking about huge numbers of young men who come from parts of the world where gay people are chucked off buildings and where women are treated in the most vile and abusive way. And that is the culture these young men have been brought up in, and they can't see anything wrong with it. And my big fear, as the numbers mount all over the country, is that this is what we are directly importing into British towns, cities and villages. And I'm not going to go silent on this. This is really fundamental, vital and important. And what is so astonishing is there's virtually nobody in the entirety of Parliament, as our elected MPs, prepared to stand up and make this position clear. Because they fear social media assault. They fear, you know, they won't be invited to nice dinner parties. I mean, and so in a way, you can blame the left if you want to. You can blame the loony left if you want to. But actually, Dan, I place the blame on so-called conservative politicians for not actually having the courage to call this out and to say they will stand up for our culture, our communities, based in Christianity, based in forgiveness, and increasingly in modern times, based in the principle of equality of opportunity. And
well,
people are not defending that.
I mean, and obviously there are a few exceptions, Lee Anderson being one, but you've seen what happens to someone like him the moment that he speaks out against the orthodoxy. But look, Nigel, there was another astonishing development over the weekend that I really do want to talk to you about. So this was around the troubled anti-radicalisation programme PREVENT, and it seems that voices on the political right were being monitored for potential links to so-called right-wing extremists. And shockingly, Nigel, your former party, the Brexit Party, and Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's, of course, joining GB News very shortly, were among them for supporting Brexit and, quote, being proud and patriotic. There were also columns by Rod Liddell and Douglas Murray, routinely used in training material to help staff target right-wing extremism. I mean, this is astonishing.
Well, I've had years of this. I mean, this is no surprise to me. I've had years and years of this. I mean, if I go back into the past, I've been called into Metropolitan Police headquarters, accused of all sorts of extraordinary things. So I am not in the least bit surprised that my name was among the list of runners and riders. And it shows you the bias that exists within the establishment in our country. Anything that is vaguely patriotic, I mean, God knows, please don't even say English. I mean, that is absolutely, completely beyond the pale. And these are the people running an anti-terrorism program that have overseen, and here's the one fact you want to really latch onto. Of the last 12 terrorist atrocities in our nation, 7 have been committed by people who were referred to prevent and went on to commit crimes in the name of Islamic terror. And whatever I've done, and you can agree with my political career, you can disagree with my political career. I've never encouraged violence. I would never have tolerated it amongst anybody in UKIP. We never had any of it amongst anybody ever in UKIP. I have done nothing to promote a terrorist agenda. And yet, in the minds of our absolutely blinded London metropolitan elite, what I represent is something that they believe to be evil. And it's a really funny thing, because 10 years ago, as the pressure cooker was building up towards that Brexit vote, I sensed the disconnect between London and the country. Do you know something? It's even bigger now.
It is. It is. And the thing that's most shocking, Nigel, is they have not learned the lesson from Brexit. They have not learned the lesson at all. But I think you're right. You know, prevent is not fit for purpose. And that story at the weekend was just further evidence of it. Nigel Farage, absolute brilliant stuff. And, of course, Nigel will be continuing this conversation 7 o'clock tomorrow night here on GB News. But coming up in tonight's media buzz, as London's failed Mayor Sadiq Khan comes under fire for his planned emission zone expansion, is the rest of the country also under threat from the ongoing war on motorists? My superstar panel return to tackle that, and we'll have the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages straight after 10. But first, as vaccine-injured spokesman John Watt releases a powerful online video to highlight his cause, why do the MSM continue to ignore victims of the jab? Well, John is going to join me live. We're going to show his viral video. It's very emotional, straight after the break.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Tom Bauer and Stephen Glover on the way. But first, the nationwide COVID-19 booster campaign officially came to an abrupt end over the weekend. But the pain and suffering of those who were left maimed or bereaved after being vaccinated still rumbles on. My next guest was a fit and healthy Glasgow man who says he was left unable to walk unaided after getting his Pfizer booster. John Watt's health deteriorated so much that he says he hasn't been able to work since that day in November 2021. He's spent a staggering £30,000 on private health treatments in a bid to cure various ailments, including a serious heart condition which first started after taking the jab. And in a powerful video that recently went viral online, John says people like him are still being ignored and gaslighted by governments, the mainstream media and health professionals.
This is a message to the governments, health professionals and mainstream media. I want you to look in the eyes of all of these people and ask yourself, what would you do if this was one of your family members? This is a cry for help. Why is it we're silenced, gaslighted and ignored when we speak about our injuries when it comes to this vaccine?
It's about time we got some airplay of our version of events. There's no need to be afraid. I will sing.
John, great to have you. Very emotional video. I mean, has it sparked any interest from the MSM whatsoever, or are they still pretending that you guys don't exist?
I think we all know the answer to that one, Dan. I think we all know the answer to that one. First of all, happy Valentine's Day, Dan. I never thought I would have a date with Dan on Valentine's Night.
You're a lucky man. You're a lucky man.
Yeah. No, there's been no interest from the mainstream media, Dan. Why would anybody want to talk about us, the vaccine injured, that are basically collateral damage? Let's be honest here. That video, you know, that's just a pebble in the ocean, Dan. The people that you actually get to see, they're in that video. There's thousands, millions around the world. And if you keep watching that video, Dan, there's a 6-year-old child who's also suffering from myocarditis from this vaccine. I still don't understand why we're left here to rot when we were all told to do the right thing. It's just absolute criminal.
And so what do you want to happen, John, and what do you think will happen? Because, unfortunately, there's just... It feels like the political establishment and the MSM, neither of them want to look at this issue at all because presumably they feel culpable for not really warning healthy young folk about some of the risks connected to the jab. I mean, we were told, weren't we, you get vaccinated to save granny. That's what we were told. We obviously know that was a complete misnomer.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Dan, if we took this vaccine, we got the correct care, we could speak about it on social media, we could, got the right support, we didn't get silenced on social media, the mainstream media would cover this topic, we would have nothing to complain about. But that's
Because
not
you are
the case at
still
all.
being, because that's a really important point, John. I just wanted to check this. I believe, I don't know if it's you or people who were connected to your video, you are still being banned from talking about vaccine side effects on social media, I believe.
Yeah, the only one that allows us to talk freely is Twitter. But if I put anything on Facebook, I'm heavily shadow banned. Instagram, the exact same. All we're looking for is help. You know, the NHS, you guys rolled this out. You told us we were doing the right thing. And again, we want help. I've spent, I'm very lucky, Dan. I'm very fortunate. I've got a good, strong family behind me. I done a GoFundMe. With the GoFundMe, that was about £16,000 it was up to. I've spent 30 grand. I'm still sitting here with heart condition. I'm still pretty much mainly bedridden. And I was a very fit and healthy guy before. Now, you know, I've got a kid. I need my mother to look after me and my partner. It's just criminal. So what do we want to happen? We need help. It's that simple, man. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, what's going on, man? Like, this is just getting absolutely ridiculous. We've got people that they're not getting their compensation. There's a gentleman in Scotland with a spinal stroke from the vaccine, and they've just rejected him for it. I mean, where do we go from here?
I know, and we saw there you are, very fit and healthy before the vaccination. The problem is, John, even when the government admits that you have serious vaccine side effects, you don't necessarily receive the compensation, do you? Because you have to be so badly affected.
Yeah, I mean, there's
out.
Alex Mitchell. There's my friend Alex Mitchell, who, you know, lost his leg to AstraZeneca. And me and Alex are good friends now. What's 60% disabled? Because Alex can do more than me, not to take away what's happened to him, because it's absolutely disgusting. But, you know, I'm still bedridden. I still can't stand up for too long. The myocarditis and the POTS, along with MCAS and dizziness.
John, it's so shocking. And look, we will keep on this, of course, and keep speaking out. Your video was incredibly powerful.
We done a campaign in January. I want to say we're going to continue that campaign, the Truth Be Told campaign, and we'll be bringing it to London on the 25th of January. I would love for yourself and the GBN team to support us and not give the mainstream media, because the Independent and the Rolling Stones magazine, they called us anti-vax. This is for the vaccine injured and bereaved.
Yeah, exactly. You had it. Well, look, let me know about that, because we will follow that. John Watt, thank you so much. But I, of course, have to present both sides of the argument here. So with regards to the vaccines, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency says the benefits of the vaccine in preventing COVID-19 and serious complications far outweigh any currently known side effects. And you can look at the rest of that there. Now, coming up, thank God details of a secret anti-Brexit summit leaked to the press, but could an establishment coup already be advanced? Stephen Glover, here on that next.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, motorists have finally had enough of eco-loons disrupting their lives. Only going to get worse under London's failed Mayor Sadiq Khan, who today has been slammed for gridlocking the capital with a harebrained ULEZ expansion, 15-minute neighbourhoods and relentless roadworks. So is his and other eco-warriors' ideological war on drivers a threat to our very way of life? I'll tackle that with my superstar panel next. Tonight, I'm joined by Amanda Plattel, Charlie Lawson and Rebecca Reid. After Star Daily Mail columnist Stephen Glover raised the alarm over the secret summit of arch Ramonas, could the establishment plot to overturn Brexit be far more advanced than we thought? Well, Stephen reveals all on that live with me at 10:20. Harry and Meghan's worldwide privacy tour continues to be mercilessly mocked in the US media.
Everywhere! In my face! Look, Kyle, we just kind of don't care about some dumb prince and his stupid wife.
Oh, ouch, that's gotta hurt. But as it's revealed, the shameless Sussexes are working with wealthy Hollywood business fixers. Do you believe they are motivated by money or humanitarian causes? Well, the top royal biographer Tom Bauer is going to weigh in on their latest money-spinning scheme. He's got lots of fascinating new detail at 10:40. As the BBC vows to balance out some of this blatant lefty bias.
When we say we want to kill Whitey, we don't really mean we want to kill Whitey, we do.
And I'm going to do something now that the British government doesn't always do, and welcome some foreigners.
So can the left-wing metropolitan elite running the British Bashing Corporation really be trusted to truly represent our views on their comedy and panel shows? That's our big debate at 10:30. Plus, it's a woke new world as Disney beams BLM propaganda directly onto your child's screen.
Doing it right now. Doing what? Being defensive about race. Robin DiAngelo wrote a whole book about it.
I'm going to show you more of that shocking showcase of reverse racism in the media buzz. We're going to have the first front pages for you in just moments too, right after your news at 10 with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you. Good evening. The top story on GB News tonight. 2 people have been arrested on suspicion of sending malicious messages concerning the missing mother of 2, Nicola Bulley. Lancashire Police received reports of messages being sent to Wyre Council members, leading to the arrest of a 49-year-old man and a 20-year-old woman. The man has been bailed pending further inquiries while the woman remains in custody. Miss Bulley disappeared while walking her dog in St Michael's on Wyre almost 3 weeks ago. She hasn't been seen since. 2 serving police officers will face misconduct cases over the way they handled reports of indecent exposure by Sarah Everard's killer. Former Met Police officer Wayne Cousins is behind bars, serving a whole life order for murdering Sarah Everard, and has admitted 3 counts of indecent exposure, one of which he committed just 4 days before her death. The Independent Office for Police Conduct says the new cases involve a Met Police constable and a Kent Police sergeant. The government's to launch an inquiry into the sinking of a migrant boat in the English Channel last year, in which 4 people lost their lives. 39 others were saved following a major rescue operation off the Kent coast in the early hours of the 14th of December. The Marine Accident Branch says the investigation will focus on the emergency response of the UK team. One British person has died in Ukraine. The UK government here saying the family has been informed and it is in contact with local authorities on the ground. Meanwhile, Downing Street announced today a national 1-minute silence to be held here to mark the first anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine on the 24th of February last year. And NATO today has been discussing support for Ukraine, including the possibility of sending fighter jets after yesterday warning it has seen a fresh Russian offensive in the country. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says the alliance will do all it can to help the country.
We need to ensure that Ukraine gets the weapons it needs to be able to retake territory, liberate the lands and win this war and prevail as a sovereign independent nation.
A 77-year-old man has been rescued from the rubble in Turkey today, 212 hours after the deadly earthquakes hit the region. But more than 41,000 people are now known to have lost their lives in the quakes, which struck the south of the country and the northern part of Syria on Monday last week. UK charities and organisations are to send emergency supplies worth more than £350,000 to Turkey 8 days after the disaster. Syria's president has told the UN he'll open 2 more border crossings so emergency aid can reach opposition-controlled areas. And the King has been meeting volunteers from the UK's Turkish community today. They've been sending aid to their home country and to Syria after last week's earthquakes. King Charles visited a West London charity to see the efforts of residents working to help those left homeless following the disaster. He told them how deeply sorry he was. And he visited a pop-up in Trafalgar Square named Syria's House, a place where Syrians can come and pay respects to lost relatives. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. You're with GB News. More now from Dan Wootton tonight.
Tomorrow's news tonight now on our Media Buzz. The first front pages are in. These are hot off the press, so straight to them. In an exclusive from The Independent, the paper reveals the true shocking cost of the NHS strikes, with 10,000 Brits waiting 18 months for surgery and 140,000 appointments already cancelled. Shame on the strikers, in my view. The Metro leads on the killing of Brianna Gay and whether the death of the trans teenager was a hate crime. Don't shoot E.T., begs the Daily Star, as ex-RAF Chief Sir Michael Graydon warns that we need to stop blasting down UFOs until we know what's inside them. It's a slow news week, people, let's be honest about it. And The Eye reports that women are facing a postcode lottery for supplies of hormone replacement therapy, with GPs in wealthy areas spending 3 times as much on menopause treatments as those in the most deprived areas. My superstar panel back with me now. Top Daily Mail columnist Amanda Platel, soap legend, TV personality and social commentator Charlie Lawson, and the author and journalist Rebecca Reed. Now, the intolerable scourge of eco-warriors returned to our roads this morning, unfortunately, as animal rebellion. What idiots blocked key Westminster routes. But what I loved is that London's motorists weren't having any of it. And look who that cop was going for, not the person blocking the road. Oh my goodness, it makes me so angry. I say good on all of those folk. But as well as battling the climate crackpox, drivers in and around the capital facing ruinous plans by failed London Mayor Sadiq Khan for an expanded ultra-low emission zone, or ULEZ for short, which will charge drivers of older petrol or diesel vehicles £12.50 each day to drive anywhere in the capital. Khan's push to force the ULEZ zone beyond London and into the home counties has been met by point-blank refusal by several councils. Indeed, the leader of Bromley Council, Colin Smith, slammed Khan's data as nonsense after he ignored the borough's much older population profile when attributing deaths to air pollution. And for those of you in other parts of the country thinking, phew, this won't affect me, think again. Because councils across the UK are beginning to follow Khan's lead, including Oxfordshire County Council, which introduced these wildly unpopular low-traffic neighbourhoods just last year. So, as the war on motorists spreads beyond London, with both the drivers and home county councils refusing to play ball, is it time we stopped eco-warriors using emotion to override science? And actually, Charlie Lawson, I think what Sadiq Khan is doing in London is incredibly disturbing, because this is a future that we're looking at, especially if Labour end up in power after the next election.
I think it's extraordinary. I was saying to Amanda and Rebecca, I mean, I live in a wee village in Cheshire, you know what I mean? So I don't have to put up with this silly little prick. But look,
ooh, spicy.
I love it. But he does annoy me. But I don't even live here. You know what I mean? I think it's extraordinary. I was saying to Rebecca, all right, I'm very lucky. I've got an old Range Rover, but 12.5 quid a day if I was filming and say driving at location and back. I mean, that's nearly 80 quid a week or over 80 quid a week. So what do you do if you're a joiner? Or, or a taxi driver?
Well, this is putting some of them out of business.
I just don't understand.
I take a lot of black cabs because it's the only way. So the city is unusable with a pram. You cannot get anywhere with a pram. So I take a lot of black cabs. And I have constant conversations with black cab drivers about how they've ended up in quite serious debt, or at least had a difficult time because they've had to get an electric black cab because those are not ULEZ problematic. And they now realise that their electricity bills are through the roof because they have to charge the cars at home. So it is a really, really. I mean, I really believe there is a problem with air pollution, but
do you feel that Sadiq Khan is wrong in this? But I don't live here.
Can I just say, Dan asks questions,
yeah,
okay?
sorry.
Oh, no, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm just sitting back.
Can I just point out that Charlie's car is, how old is it?
About 12 years old.
Yeah, so he's going to be stuffed every time he comes into London.
2006 is the cut-off as far as I understand it. That's certainly, and also automatic cars. So I have a 2006 automatic car, and that's not a problem. I can drive that within the ULEZ without paying.
But he wants to do all these no-go zones and all that.
Okay.
But the air pollution is a massive problem. Let's be realistic. Like, you live in
come on, you live in any city in the world and it's a massive problem.
Okay, but where you live and where I live have different air pollution.
Now she's being snobbery about air conditioning.
No, snobbery about where I live.
Can I just... OK, my simple points are that ULEZ sounds like something from the Stasi, OK? I mean,
really
who
does.
calls something like that? And
it helps. It's ultra-low emission zone.
ULEZ. I mean, God Almighty. And the important thing is, if you listen to any talk show chat back at the moment, you've got people phoning in who are carers, people who are looking after, like, carers for a living or looking after elderly parents, people who can't drive or get in the bus. You've got joiners, you've got carpenters. They're all being completely screwed by this. Because if you think the living wage at the moment is $11.95 per hour, that means for a carer who is earning that per hour for her shift, she's paying more than she loses. He or she loses an hour of every day of their work to this ridiculous scheme.
Why are people voting for him?
But there's a more interesting thing here, slightly more interesting, is that there are a number of boroughs now who are saying we will not put up the signs. Now, technically, if you do not put up the signs, then you can't be charged for it.
Which is great.
So all power to these boroughs.
And a lot of the home
who are going to reject it and not accept it.
But Charlie, I actually think you've raised the most important point. Why are people voting for this? And this is why I believe Sadiq Khan is the most dangerous politician in the country, because Sadiq Khan is a failed mayor, yet he knows he's winning the next election. There's absolutely no way anyone will beat Sadiq Khan.
But then have a polite word with all of your friends who split the vote on the last one, because he pipped it to be... And if you ask if everybody else who works here stops running...
I was backing Sean Bailey, our great superstar panellist, and I was backing
Sean
him
is fine.
hard.
Everybody else needs to stop running for mayor. All of everybody else who works here, all very nice people, stop running for mayor, and then you won't have Sadiq Khan. Stop splitting the vote.
Don't disagree. I don't disagree. Now, look, finally, the cancel culture mob have got their pitchforks out once again. It happens every week, doesn't it? This time for a Jack the Lad radio host who made a bit of a rubbish joke about the Turkey earthquake. So this is the jibe that left Capital FM DJ Ant Payne in hot water last night.
I think now actually is the best time to start looking at some cheap flights away to Turkey. Over the next few years. Get your teeth in as well, you're over there. You can come back looking 19 years. You'll be on Love Island next year if you do it now.
Now, Ant talked to Twitter today to say sorry, admitting the joke was insensitive and ill-timed. You know, let's be honest, it was a lame joke, no doubt a little bit offensive to some people, but, and this is what I don't like, he is now predictably fighting for his job after frothing at the mouth Twitter wokesters sparked a pile-on demanding his sacking. So what happened to the days of admitting mistakes, making apologies and learning from our past? I know it wasn't funny, but let's not ruin this guy. He's apologised. That's my point.
OK, it was a totally ridiculous joke. And I think that what he should take heart from is Jeremy Clarkson, who, after he wrote about that thing about Meghan Markle, about how she should have poo thrown at her, which, of course, was awful. ITV said they'd cancel Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Netflix said, Amazon Prime said they wouldn't run his farm show. It's running the second series now. The third one is being commissioned. He's filming Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the next series right now. Just let it go. Say you're really sorry. Just put your really...
You've got to be really, really good to get away with that.
But I just
Jeremy
think,
Clarkson
Charlie,
is really good. This guy is...
Charlie, the point is this guy made a mistake. It's live radio.
It was a really
he made
dumb
a mistake.
thing to say.
Yeah, but he's apologised. That's my point. It's like, why is the Twitter mob trying to ruin this guy's life? They're going to his employer, Global, saying, sack him, sack him. No, he's apologised. He's made a mistake.
The Twitter mob are horrible.
Yeah.
Dan, I posted a picture of the... Can I just tell this one little story? I posted this picture of me cooking this beautiful
Mummy, Daddy, please stop fighting.
This beautiful Sunday roast. And I posted it on Twitter, thanks to my stepson Max. He said it would be a really good idea. And people posted things saying, it's cold and black like your heart. I mean, it's horrible out there.
Yeah, but at least that's funny.
It's funnier than the earthquake
That's funny.
I think Rebecca's got a point. Yeah. I mean, look, if you're good at telling them, you know, I mean, you could just about imagine King Billy Connolly getting away with something because he knows how to... It's like I said to you the other day, Charlie the plumber, God bless him, when he did the joke about the corner shop, you know, you've got to be able to do it right, otherwise you'll fall on your arse. But he apologised.
Exactly. Let's just accept apology. That's what I say. Charlie Lawson, Amanda Patel, Rebecca Reid, do stand by, because coming up in the second part of the Media Buzz, as the BBC claim to be on the lookout for new comedy from the right of the political spectrum, can we really trust the metropolitan elite who run the corporation to represent all political views? I don't think so. But my superstar panel will have their say. But next, as a leak thankfully uncovers a secret anti-Brexit meeting amongst the shadowy Ramona figures of the British establishment, could plans to reverse Brexit be gathering pace? Well, esteemed Daily Mail journalist Stephen Glover sounds the alarm straight after the break.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Dubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Now, after a leak to the lefty newspaper The Observer, it's been revealed that just last week a secret anti-democratic meeting was attended by some of the Westminster bubble's loudest Ramonas. Subject of the meeting, how can we make Brexit work better with our neighbours in Europe, may sound mundane, but when we consider the intended secrecy of the meeting plus the track record of many of the Europhile attendees, it begins to look far more sinister. The 2-day summit at Oxfordshire's Ditchley Park was attended by Labour's David Lammy and chaired by none other than Lord Mandelson, who were both avowed Brexit haters.
Implication, you're comparing the ERG to the Nazi Party, or at least to the South African racists. Now, whatever you think about the ERG, that was an unacceptable comparison, wasn't it?
Andrew, I would say that that wasn't strong enough.
We came out of Brexit with the worst deal possible.
You talk to very many others who say that they did not know what specific Brexit they were being asked to sign up to. Either a painful one, as I've said, or a pointless one in which we leave and continue to follow the rules.
So perhaps Brexit's chances of success would be stronger if Rishi Sunak's centrist government started treating it less like a burden and more like an opportunity. Well, that's the advice given by Star Daily Mail columnist Stephen Glover, who raised the alarm of a potential establishment plot to destroy Brexit in the newspaper yesterday. And here to tell us more, Stephen joins us now. So, Stephen, I thought we voted for Brexit to stop shadowy, secretive meetings of the elite determining our future. And here we are in 2023 and it's happening again.
I thought so too, Dan, and I think a lot of people will be pretty shocked about this meeting. I mean, the worst thing about it is the secrecy. The fact that it's only because the Observer, I mean, you describe the Observer as a lefty paper, fine, but they did run the story. I don't know what their motivations were, but they ran the story. If it hadn't been for the Observer, we wouldn't know about it. And my main objection is, well, 2 objections in the first place. One is that it was completely secret, and if it hadn't been for the Observer, we wouldn't know about it. And secondly, although there were some Brexiteers or supposed Brexiteers there, it appears to have been dominated by Remainers or Ramonas, and as you say, chaired by the arch Ramona, Lord Mandelson. I mean, who is the Ramona of all Ramonas?
Well, indeed. And a certain David Lammy, and I'm sorry, Steve, I mean, this is the bloke who said that Tory Brexiteers like Jacob Rees-Mogg were worse than the Nazis. So I just will never believe that he has good intentions to make Brexit work. But even if he does, why is he doing it behind closed doors?
Well, because I think that the objective is to try to subtly persuade the British people before they've had the chance to see, before actually, I mean, we only properly left the EU just over 2 years ago. Could you remember there was a transition period of a year? So, I mean, in that time, we've had COVID, we've had the horror of the pandemic, we've had the energy crisis, and to disentangle any effect which Brexit may have had from those, in my view, much worse calamities is frankly impossible. But the story, the narrative which is being developed so soon is that Brexit hasn't succeeded, and that is what Lammy and that is what Mandelson, that is what they're all doing, and what they want to do is to get the Brexiteers, the useful idiots, if you like, who were there, to kind of half agree with them. You know, they'll say, well, maybe you've got a point. Maybe Brexit isn't working. Maybe we have to do something about it. Maybe we have to go back into the single market. That is what they want to do. I mean, you know, many of us thought this was all over, and how naive we were. It's not all over. The fight goes on, and it's as active and as venomous and as deceitful as it ever was.
Well, of course. I mean, we have a chancellor now who seemed to be imposed on us, who is having conversations, again, behind closed doors with officials about some sort of Swiss-style arrangement that would tie us to the EU forevermore. So the fight isn't even close to over. But what I can't work out, Stephen Glover, is why was Michael Gove at the meeting? I mean, Sunak yesterday wouldn't actually condemn him attending when he was interviewed about it by the GBNews political editor Darren McCaffrey as part of the political pool. But then the next day, then a couple of hours later, his spokesperson did tell political journalists, oh no, this wasn't approved by the Prime Minister. But it feels very fishy, the attendance of Gove.
It feels very fishy. I mean, you know, one can't help but admire Gove in some ways. He's a clever chap, and he's done some good things. But as I said in my piece, if you were crossing the Sahara Desert with one water bottle, would you choose Gove as your companion? You wouldn't. I mean, you know, he's clever, but he's sinuous, he's serpentine. I won't go so far as to say he's untrustworthy, but his presence there, it was, at the very least, it was incredibly unwise. What was he doing there in a secret meeting with a lot of Remainers? You know, I wouldn't mind an open meeting if it was open and reported, and people didn't do what this meeting was doing, which is trying to get us back into the single market in the EU, but generally tried to work out how Brexit can be made to work better. I mean, I don't think it's working brilliantly. I don't suppose you do either.
Absolutely not. But what I want to see is certainly not behind closed doors meeting. What I want to see is our Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who, look, let's give him credit for the fact he did actually vote for Brexit. He was a relatively low-profile politician at the time. But look, he can claim to be an original Brexiteer. But why yesterday, when he was asked about this, did he not say, absolutely, we should not be having closed doors meetings about trying to take us or tie us to closer ties to the EU? There was just no passion there. I just struggle to believe that he genuinely believes in the benefits that can be gained from Brexit.
Well, I'm afraid I do too. And what evidence is there in the government policy? I mean, in April, we are supposed to have an increase in corporation tax from 19% to 25%, which is more than a third. That's an incredible increase. We're no other EU country, no EU country is doing that. No country in the world that I know of, no major economy, but we're doing that. And how can you make Brexit work if you yank up taxes to that extent when other countries are actually bringing down corporation tax? And a few days ago, AstraZeneca announced that they were building a new plant in Ireland rather than the UK because of that, for the very, very reason. And you know, we need some sign from Rishi Sunak that he actually believes in Brexit. But at the moment, the government's policies seem to be working in the other direction, particularly the increase in corporation tax.
And as Lord Frost said yesterday in your great newspaper, the Daily Mail, the Tory party, if they really want to prove that they believe in Brexit, must reduce the highest tax burden in 70 years. We will see in the budget next month, but it's not looking positive at this point. Brilliant analysis, as ever, from Stephen Glover, Star Daily Mail columnist from Oxford tonight. Thank you so much, Stephen. Coming up in Uncancelled, as the Sussexes cosy up to Hollywood's biggest business people, are they proving their true motivation is financial? And should Under Fire BBC chairman Richard Sharp admit defeat and resign? Royal biographer and respected journalist Tom Bauer here on both those stories at 10:40. But next, in the Media Buzz, with the BBC on the lookout for comedy from across the political spectrum. Yeah, right. Can we really trust the lefties in the British Bashing Corporation to accurately represent a range of views? You'll definitely get a diverse range of opinion from my superstar panel just after this short break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Time to return to tomorrow's news tonight now in our Media Buzz. First front page, more front pages being delivered, and we'll go to The Sun, which reports a twist in the case that has gripped the nation as a mystery-stained glove was found in fields and taken away as evidence last week. This is despite the police's belief that missing Nicola Bulley fell into the river back on the 27th of January. And the Daily Express leads with the head of the British Army's insistence that we can stand up to Putin as his evil invasion of Ukraine approaches its first anniversary, with claims the UK are equipped to lead the response if Russia attacks any NATO ally. My superstar panel back with We Now top Daily Mail columnist Amanda Patel, soap legend and social commentator Charlie Lawson, and the author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Now, after being called out for liberal bias by their own chairman, Richard Sharp, in December, the BBC has announced plans to break up the woke panels in their comedy shows. Julia Mackenzie, who was last year appointed Comedy and Entertainment Commissioning Editor for Radio 4, said she was keen to sign up comics from underrepresented backgrounds, adding breadth of perspective matters. Humour shouldn't just come from one political viewpoint. Now, the fact she even felt the need to say that speaks volumes, but honestly, I'll believe it when I see it, considering this has been the output the British Bashing Corporation has happily broadcast in recent years.
We say we want to kill Whitey, we don't really mean we want to kill Whitey, we do.
Certain unpleasant characters are being thrown to the fore, and they're very, very easy to hate. And I'm kind of thinking, why bother with a milkshake when you could get some battery acid?
And I'm going to do something now that the British government doesn't always do, and welcome some foreigners.
The haters will say that we've had 12 years of the Tories and that we're sort of at the dregs of what they've got available, and that Liz Truss is sort of like the backwash of the available MPs. I wouldn't say that because I'm incredibly right-wing.
I mean, that's just the sort of output, Amanda Patel, that we get from the BBC on a regular basis. I have absolutely no faith and no belief that they will include any right-wing perspectives or any even centrist perspectives in
No,
their
they
comedy.
won't. What they're going to be looking for is when they talk about being inclusive, it will be people from ethnic backgrounds, it'll be people from different kinds of backgrounds. You're never going to see a Rory Bremner back on the BBC. You're never going to see anything like that. And that Jo Brand, honestly, she drives me nuts. First time I ever met her, she said, I bloody hate you, and she didn't say hated me. I bloody hate the Daily Mail. I said, why? And she said, because you keep running pictures of me where I look fat.
So maybe there's an ulterior motive there behind your hate.
I don't know what you say to that, but it's just constantly Tory bashing. It's in their DNA. I've worked in the BBC. I've done Have I Got News For You? I've seen what it's like there, the way they treat people from the right. I do not believe it's an institution that is capable of redemption.
Charlie, this is your industry. You have to be honest. I mean, it's almost like an accepted fact, isn't it, that BBC comedy, especially the panel shows, especially the political comedy, is left-wing. So good on them if they're going to try and change that, but I find it hard to believe that they will. I mean, we have some brilliant comedians here on GB News, on the Headliners show, which follows mine, who are hilarious and absolutely represent all of the political spectrums. Yeah. They can find these comedians if they want to, that they're there. You know, Nick Dixon, Leo Kearse, Andrew Dawe, they're brilliant. But the BBC doesn't want these people on their shows.
No, I think Amanda's right. And I think probably specifically in that comedic sort of area that they deal with, that's never going to change. I mean, the quote here from Julia Mackenzie, I'm keen that we specifically reflect the life experience and outlook of the younger generation of people who are wrestling differently with a lot of modern-day challenges. Quite frankly, that's going to be about as funny as an anti-personnel mine. You know what I mean? Look, they'll try their best. The first thing they could possibly do... Will they have the balls to actually repeat the original Faulty Towers?
No.
The original? No, they won't. Of course
would
they
put
trigger warnings on.
Would they put Billy Connolly on live?
Said he approved of. Would they have Ricky Gervais on?
John Cleese.
No, not in a million years.
He wouldn't show it again.
He said he approved of a thing before a show. He said, I generally approve of the idea of a slide.
Well, he's taken that back.
If you are offended by this, don't watch it.
He's taken that back because I spoke to him for an exclusive interview last week.
Excellent interview, may I say?
Yes, thank you very much.
I haven't got around to watching
First time he's spoken about.
And he won't go to the BBC.
He will not take it to
under
the BBC.
any circumstances.
Yes, because you want to defend the BBC on this.
I love the BBC. Cut me and I bleed the BBC. If the BBC are watching, please call me.
So do I. I want to work for them again.
I know you actually do. But my point, Dave, the thing that I often say, which is really, I think, important, is that most creative young people are left-wing. People get more right-wing as they get older. The BBC's problem is that it does have a little bit of an ageism situation and a little bit of a fetish for youth. And I think they could probably offset this problem by genuine diversity of bringing in older people who would then bring in a different perspective, and that would really help. But
what about some of the centre-right
all they have
comedians
done,
that I've just spoken about?
I would say
that we have
pretty
on
much
headlines?
every right-wing comedian in the UK is on headliners, and they are brilliant, and I enjoy it. And
but they could be on the BBC
people.
too.
Yes, yes, they could. But at the moment, there is a problem. They have acknowledged there is a problem. They're trying to fix it. And what really annoys me is when someone like the BBC says, hands up, we haven't always nailed this, we're going to fix it, rather than being like, cool, well done, we look forward to it. We're being like, oh, you won't.
But the solution's
But they won't
easy.
do it.
The solution's
They
easy.
are-
Call up Leo Kurz, call up Nick Dixon, call up Andrew Doyle. As you just said, we have these great comedians.
Because
they can do a little bit of the BBC too. Personally, I wouldn't approve of it, but they can if they want.
But it's also rubbish, Rebecca, to say that people only get to be conservative when they get old.
Clever, creative young people
I was
are always
born. I was from the moment I was born. I've
You're
been
not a creative
conservative.
writer. You're not. You're a journalist. You're not a creative.
Excuse
You're
me.
not.
So I'm not a creative.
Charlie, you're going to
and I'm not funny either.
You're going to have to write these two up. Now, look,
This is. I don't want her on the panel anymore.
Please don't get me
She's
fired. I
too
have a child.
Valentine's Day, please be polite to each other. They've cut 7,000 jobs as part of an effort to make its streaming business profitable. There's an obvious explanation for Disney's demise, in my opinion. Go woke, go broke. The latest evidence is their relaunch of the kids' animated series The Proud Family. This version, titled The Proud Family Louder and Prouder. Unlike its original, the two new series released on Disney Plus are jam-packed with dangerous BLM propaganda like this rap song.
Country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. And we, the descendants of slaves in America, have earned reparations for their suffering. And continue to earn reparations every moment we spend submerged in the systemic prejudice, racism, and white supremacy that America was founded with and still has not atoned for.
Now, that rightly caused outrage across the pond, but the Disney indoctrination drive didn't end there. A fresh clip that's just gone viral shows a black man telling off his spouse for white fragility. Watch.
Oh, you understand love, don't you? No, I do not understand anything about white fragility. White fragility? What's that supposed to mean? You know what it means! You're doing it right now! Doing what? Being defensive about race. Robin DiAngelo wrote a whole book about it.
And it goes on and on and on. Reverse racism right there. Thank you, Disney. No wonder people are switching off. Amanda Patel, Charlie Lawson with his head in his hands, Rebecca Reed, my superstar panel, thank you so much. And they will be back coming up as actress Cate Blanchett calls out the cancel culture mob by defending Picasso. Should we separate the art from the artist? That's our discussion as we crown tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But next in Uncancelled, with the Duchess of Sussex rumoured to be buttering up Hollywood's richest names, does it show money comes before anything else? For Harry and Meghan, top royal biographer Tom Bauer has his say in just 2 minutes' time. Don't go anywhere.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the people's channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the people's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. Now, the Sussexes have been on a relentless charm offensive in America, embracing all the woke mumbo-jumbo that Hollywood has to offer. But in a rock-bottom moment, the X-rated US satire South Park has teased an episode fittingly named World Privacy Tour, and the ex-royals get truly roasted. Look.
Seriously, it's driving me crazy. I'm sick of hearing about them, but I can't get away from them. They're everywhere, in my face.
Look, Kyle, we just kind of don't care about some dumb prince and his stupid wife.
Dumb prince and his stupid wife. So with the PR campaign not exactly going to plan, the couple are on the lookout for the next money-making scheme. And it's now been uncovered that they're working with one of Hollywood's top venture capitalists, Adam Lilleen, who specialises in introducing celebs to business startups. According to Page Six, Lilleen first met the Sussexes through the chat show host and one of his other clients, Ellen DeGeneres. And in an unconfirmed rumour, Meghan Markle is also alleged to have met with Gordon Getty, the American billionaire and son of oil tycoon J. Paul Getty. Well, I'm delighted to be joined now by Meghan Markle's biographer, Tom Bauer. So, Tom, you look at that South Park clip, the Sussexes have become exactly what they never wanted. They're now a punchline in America, even amongst the liberal American media. But it hasn't stopped their money-making drive, which actually seems to be ratcheting up a notch. What's going on?
Well, I think their priority is earning money. But the veneer is always charity. They pretend always that they are philanthropists. They're eager to hand out cash to people who need it. But it's very noticeable that when Harry said he was going to give a large chunk of his advance on his sensational book to charity, it's now just a little bit, and he hasn't quantified it. So I think they're keeping the money, but parading themselves as philanthropists and people who are anxious to help the downtrodden. But, of course, the one most important downtrodden are they themselves.
Because the most cynical thing about these business advisors, who they seem to have signed up with, is that their whole raison d'etre is to say, we're going to make you look like you're charitable, but actually we're going to make you very rich at the same time. It's deeply cynical, Tom.
Well, it's cynical, as was the whole departure from Britain, and is the whole of this, the Netflix series and the book, I'm the Victim, when in fact they're the aggressors. And, you know, in truth, what we're seeing is an extraordinary marketing campaign by Meghan, whose number one interest is herself, and the second interest is money. And the question is, how will she make a lot of money in a short period of time in the end to make sure she doesn't need always to parade herself as the victim of the royal family? She's always looking for other business opportunities. And what's interesting is the people she goes to. Who is going to maximise Meghan's popularity? Who's going to make her really big and very rich? And she's, I think, very shrewd and clever in that. She's always looking for opportunities and for people who can help her. Now, Harry undoubtedly was one step, but will she keep Harry for long? Perhaps Harry will become redundant to her ambitions in the near future. Who knows?
But you think this is about the couple saying, we know that this is peak money-making time. We want to be able to maintain this new lavish lifestyle for the rest of our lives, so we have to make a lot of money and fast. And maybe someone like Getty, who Meghan was apparently meeting up with, maybe she's going to get advice from him on that.
Not really advice and money, but I mean, you know, what's terrible for the Sussexes is they haven't got really that much money compared to the other A-listers. I mean, if they've got $20 or $30 million amongst the A-listers who are billionaires, that is just a day's or a year's expenditure on food and living.
So they want more.
So they, of course, they're poor compared to their neighbours. And Meghan feels that more than anything. That is, after all, why she was so dissatisfied with Frogmore. She wanted a palace, not 5 cottages knocked into a sort of small home in Windsor. So she's really looking for the big time. The question is whether Harry appreciates that, whether he really wants to go along that ride. Is he really so money-oriented as she is? I mean, she only sees dollars everywhere. She only sees zillions. She wants to ride in the big Cadillacs, the private jets on command. At the moment, she has to scrounge for those sort of things. So and she's on a treadmill which is fast. She wants to get there faster than tomorrow.
We still haven't seen her, Tom. Is that part of the strategy?
Of course, the mystery is there. That's the great thing. And she's pretty clever. She really is. She's making herself scarce while she puts the next huge expose, the next theatre opportunity together, and then she will unveil herself.
I know, look, I want to move on to another big story, Tom. BBC Chairman Richard Sharp continues to be scrutinised over the extent of his involvement in securing Boris Johnson an £800,000 loan. And during BBC Snooze Night yesterday, establishment broadcaster Jonathan Dimbleby said that Sharp and not its army of left-wing journalists had damaged the BB's reputation as an impartial broadcaster. Watch.
No doubt he's an honourable man, incidentally. No doubt at all. I have no reason to doubt that what he should do honourably is to fall on his sword and say, in the interests of the BBC, which I care about, I don't want this to go on and on and on. I shall stand aside.
So, look, the BBC journalists obviously don't like Richard Sharp because he's a Tory, but you have doubts about whether Sharp should actually remain in his role.
Oh, look, I worked for the BBC for 26 years. It was in my veins. It was the most wonderful organisation to work for. Richard Sharp's time at the BBC is limited. It's not if, but when he goes. He was a rotten appointment. And looking back over past chairmen, there have been a succession of rotten appointments. He's not the first banker who's had to go. Gavin Davis, who was the Labour appointment, was forced to resign because he was no good. And there have been others too, like Richard Clementi and others. And Chris Patten, the Tory, was a dreadful chairman. It's a very difficult job. And Richard Sharp was a rotten appointment from the outset. He's a banker who hates journalists, who doesn't understand broadcasting, who thought he could impose his will and impartiality and all the rest, and actually restore some sort of equilibrium and get more right-wing views. But he doesn't understand the medium. He was a rotten appointment. He's the wrong sort of man. And the sooner he goes, the better. And to be totally true about this and candid, he was Boris's appointment, and Boris formally wanted Charles Moore, who had been a bad appointment too, and he was doing Sharp a favour because Sharp wanted a public role. But he didn't know what he was getting into. And what really exposed him was this investigation into the lies that Martin Bashir told on behalf of Panorama to get that famous interview with Diana. When Richard Sharp appeared before the Parliamentary Committee answering for the BBC's shameful cover-up and lies, over 25 years, and more importantly, in the last couple of years, he completely failed to convince the committee or the BBC staff. And that was when the rot began to be sown, because he went along with what was a whitewash by a judge about what the BBC had done recently to cover up the cover-up. Because he didn't understand, because he's not political enough, because he has the banker's arrogance, and therefore he's got to go. The Tory government must now appoint somebody who understands journalism, who understands broadcasting, who has an empathy with the staff, and most important of all, who the staff respect.
So
and
your
the appearance
issue isn't that it's a political appointment, it's that Richard Sharp didn't actually have the skills required to be chairman.
Well, he was appointed by Boris as a favour, and that was a terrible mistake. And he's been exposed, because what these people never understand is they may be giants at Goldman Sachs or in the city, but once you get such a high-profile job as chairman of the BBC, then you're there for the taking by the staff if you get it wrong. And Sharp has got it majorly wrong, so he's got to go.
Tom Bauer, absolutely fascinating as always. Thank you so much. We will speak next week. But it's time now to reveal tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. And my superstar panel return. Amanda Patel, who is your nominee for tonight's Greatest Britain? Do you remember, Amanda?
I think the camera isn't on me.
Oh, gosh, you always want the camera on you, don't we?
Shoot,
Okay, my greatest Brit is Camilla, Queen Camilla, who, sadly, like me, will be alone tonight on Valentine's night because she's got COVID. I don't have COVID. She's got a husband. I don't have a husband, but, you know, I'm just saying, here's to you, Camilla. Actually, quite Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Okay, can we take a look at Amanda?
I'd quite like a
because She's
husband.
very excited about this. There you are.
Can I wear it for a bit?
Yeah.
And this is because, Amanda, we've found out what Camilla's crown is today.
Yeah, it's all about that really big diamond that she's not going to wear in it, and it's really, really famous. But she's sick tonight, and I'm really sorry because she's a great girl.
Oh, and by the way, this here was.
Oh, look, okay.
Terribly birthday. By the way, I'm just showing that too. Who knows what's going on? Anyway, let's move on. Charlie, who's your greatest friend? We already know because we can see it there. Charlie, why are you picking Kate Blanchett?
I'm picking Kate Blanchett because... No, see, I better not do that. I'll get into more trouble than I'm already in. I'm picking Kate because, well, A, because I guess she can, but B, she's called out against this nonsense about Picasso and whatever, so she's trying to fight against this cancel culture and woke nonsense.
Yeah, she's basically said that even though Picasso may have had some negative parts of his personality, we've got to be very careful not to cancel artists, and I completely agree with that. Rebecca, or not cancel the work of the artists, especially once they've left this earth. Rebecca Reid, your Greatest Britain nominee.
Do you feel like we're taking this seriously enough with our tiara?
No,
it's not a tiara, it's a crown.
Wrong in this section of the show.
Mine is Rihanna for her Super Bowl performance. She's pregnant. When I was pregnant, I could literally just about get on this sofa, say something rude about the Tories and then leave. And she did a whole performance at the Super Bowl.
Well, look, I am going to go with Charlie and Kate Blanchett because, look, it's very easy, isn't it, for Kate Blanchett? Charlie and I were speaking about this earlier. It's very easy for Kate Blanchett to speak up against cancel culture, but at the same time, at least she is using her position to do just that. Amanda Patel, your nominee for tonight's Union Jackass, please.
Rishi Sunak, who, in defending his position over Brexit and all these rows about the secret meeting, said, I am really proud I voted Brexit and I have taken control of the borders. 45,000 people arrived in small boats last year, about 70,000 expected this year.
Charlie Lawson, your nominee.
Been up at Newcastle doing some theatre, so just catching up with the news, and it has to be the Archbishop, Mr. Welby. Shut up. Get on your knees and get on with it, you silly old...
It's like, Calvin's here.
I so totally agree.
Rebecca Reid, your nominee.
They're getting rid of Lilt, and I'm really upset about it. It's like Fanta, but better. And whoever decided to discontinue Lilt, it's a great drink. Somebody out there will care, I'm sure.
Well, I know the reason we have a picture of the Coca-Cola company is because Coca-Cola makes Lilt.
Yeah.
I was actually...
not anymore, they don't, Dan.
Genuinely devastated about this.
Yes.
Lilt... I think Lilt and Vinto are my favourite drinks. And it's like, why
Too much sharing,
Lilt
Dan.
and tequila?
Too much sharing.
And you know what's even worse? They are rebranding Lilt as Fanta, but Lilt won't taste like Lilt if it's rebranded as Fanta. And I just think this is a drink that we've had since 1975. Can't you just leave us with the simple pleasure of Lilt, the Coca-Cola company, which is why Lilt is
totally
our
tropical
Union Jackass.
taste.
Well, the Coca-Cola company is our Union Jackass for getting rid of Lilt. I am so passionate and upset about this. There we go. Rebecca Reid, congratulations. Charlie Lawson, great to see you. And Amanda Patel, thank you so much. I'm back tomorrow from 9. Good night.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle.